Merry Christmas. We're back with another festive holiday movie. Today we're going to be talking about 2015's horror comedy, Krampus. This was directed by Michael Dougherty, who wrote X-Men 2, one of the better ones. Superman Returns, which I actually like. A lot of people don't like that. I like the throwback to the Donner Superman. Also wrote and directed Godzilla King of Monsters. It was written by himself, joined with Todd Casey and Zach Shields. I don't know anything about these guys. They don't even have a Wikipedia article. What am I supposed to do?
Took 3 people to write this movie? Damn.
It sounds like you, me, and I don't know, Jesse getting together. It's like, you know, you get writing credits. Based on Krampus from Austro-Bavarian folklore. It stars MJ Anthony, a kid who could maybe have a future as a cult classic Kevin McAllister. I don't know.
All right.
It'll be interesting to see how this movie ends up in the Christmas canon. Stefania Lavi Owen, who besides in this film, she's MJ's sister. She's been in the recent season of Sweet Tooth on Netflix. She plays the character Bear, if you're familiar with that. Also has Adam Scott as the dad. You've seen him in Parks and Rec, Step Brothers. This is no Catalina fucking wine mixer, let me tell you that. The Good Place. Oh, right. Yeah. He's a demon in The Good Place.
Yep.
Toni Collette, the great Toni Collette.
Of course.
Mom in The Sixth Sense, Mom in Hereditary. She's in all the spooky stuff.
All the moms and all the things.
All the moms and all the things. David Koechner, who is the whammy guy from Anchorman, plays the uncle.
Is he in Hot Tub Time Machine as well?
I think so. I think Adam Scott is in there too. There's a whole ecosystem here. Allison Tolman, who you might remember as Molly Solverson from season 1 of Fargo. I certainly do. Is in this movie. She is the late last year the aunt and uncle to the character of Max, played by MJ here. Jim, I've seen this movie before, but when we were coming up with the concept, we've had this concept of Scary Christmas for a while. And it had kind of roughly the slate of movies that it ends up having. And I was always nervous because like we were going to do it last year, but 2020 was such a shit year. We wanted to do something kind of like more overtly joyful. We didn't want to do anything crazy concept. This year, not that it's been hugely better,
sure,
but I've enjoyed it a little bit more and I was ready for something. But we got Scary Christmas and I'm like, what if people are just bummed out by these really scary movies? I thought your film Rare Exports was supposed to be scary. Turns out that was kind of a horror comedy. Krampus, I remember being a no shit scary movie, and I can't explain it. I don't know whether I was just a little bit more of a horror pussy, which is almost certainly true, or like I thought it was scary for a Christmas film. But like I'm feeling a lot better. I'm feeling like this is not as grim a Christmas fable as we were originally worried about. What did you think of Krampus?
It's not a scary movie. It has some imagery that's pretty terrifying. Like there's a couple of Jack in the Box images that are horrifying. Scary stuff. But it is definitely a comedy too. This movie is weird because it starts off as like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Well, almost identical, right? It's like the relatives are coming into town. Oh, they roll up their shit bags, every single one of them. The family hates each other. They have all these arguments. That is exactly the formula for the beginning of this movie, but boy, does it change somewhere in the middle to become a Christmas horror classic. Yeah,
so you call it a classic because when I rewatched this film, I was like 15 minutes in, I was completely charmed. I'm like, oh, this is way more Christmassy than I remembered it. And then as it took its dark turn, I'm like, this is all earned. And it's also very like the thing I walked away is this is like a really like some movies we've talked about where like Turbo Man, what was the Jingle All the Way one? Yeah. Do they even know what Christmas is about? Like there's a lot of lip service paid, but the ideals of this movie, even though it's darker, and I'm not going to spoil the ending, but maybe it's not as happy as some of the others Christmas movies you've seen. This thing is all about the Christmas ideal and, what it should be about versus the perversion that it's become in a lot of our culture, and like really deals with that in an entertaining, occasionally horrifying, and also sometimes extremely funny way.
Oh, yeah.
Like the opening montage of, you got like, I think it's one of the classic Frank Sinatra's, like, I don't know, or Bing Crosby, White Christmas. I can't remember which song it starts over, but this slow motion montage of essentially Black Friday You know, the doors opening at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't even know they even close anymore. Doors opening 6 o'clock in the morning and people just like being stampeded and children crying and people being trampling. That just really sets you up for like what this movie is all about. And it's also just extremely funny, that montage of Christmas shopping carnage.
And then the kid in the play, who I guess later turns out to be, you know, the main character. You kind of don't know, right? Like at least I didn't, sitting down, like who was who. I definitely saw some faces I recognized at the beginning. I'm like, okay, those are probably main characters. Like Adam Scott walks through frame in the background. He's probably a main character.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see all the kids fighting on the stage at the play, the Christmas play. It gives a real impression of like Christmas has become this very stressful, very angry sort of thing, whereas hopefully it won't be in the future and wasn't in the past, but we'll see.
Yeah, and you've got a kid who's somewhere between 11 and 13, I think, like supposed to understand is kind of, you know, getting on the verge of being too old for Santa Claus, probably already has heard the rumors, probably doesn't believe in his heart, but he remembers his Christmases from long ago where they used to, you know, his sister didn't think he was, you know, his older sister would hang out with him, and his mom and dad seemed like they loved each other more. And the family came over and it was such a nice time of hot chocolate and Christmas movies and wrapping presents. And he feels that slipping away in favor of all this other bullshit, you know? And like, you know, this movie in its DNA it's like one part Home Alone, because you've got like the fateful Christmas wish, you know, that apparently comes true. You've got one part National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which, oh my God, whole entire sections are riffed off of the Randy Quaid sequences.
Oh yeah.
You know, like there's just tons and tons of direct lifts from that movie. And it's like one part Chud, you know, with like kind of like the almost rambunctious horror, you know. It's like it's definitely horror and there's scary things happening, but there's also a verve to it, you know. Like Krampus seems like he enjoys his work.
Yeah, I have so many questions around Krampus that the grandma just didn't answer. I don't know that she really has the answers, but I wanted them and I didn't get them by the end of this movie. So I'll have to propound you with some of those.
Well, you know, you might be able to ask Krampus yourself, Jim, because next weekend there's this German fest, Christkindlmarkt, that's coming to town. And Saturday night, like I think from 8 to 9, Krampus takes the place of Santa Claus in the photo booth, and we might try to get a picture with him, bend his ear, bend his horn, and of course he'll throw us in his filthy sack and take us away as the naughty children that we are. But I don't know if that's the thing is I don't know if I have answers, because like I remember this film of being like a straight up like a James Wan-esque horror film. And there is a little bit of that, but it just doesn't maintain that level of dread, because the movie's always making a joke or making a wry observation, or the monsters are having a little bit too good of a time. I feel like we have kind of laid out the storyline. This is a movie about a young kind of Kevin McAllister who wants Christmas to be better than it is, and his family is not cooperating. They're being real shits about it. Family's coming over, but instead of it being a source of joy, it's a source of stress and hostility. And he's had enough. And over family dinner, which we'll get to, his cousins do something which I consider beyond the pale. Steal his Christmas letter, start reading it out, and he immediately reneges on all the nice Christmas things he wanted, and essentially hates them all, damns them all, and wishes they weren't here.
Loses the spirit of Christmas. Yeah.
Loses the spirit of Christmas. And turns out, just like there's a benevolent spirit that listens to the wishes of good boys and girls, there is a darker shadow of Saint Nick that stalks and looking for the naughty children and making their nightmares come true. Yeah. And Krampus descends on the family with 3 days to go. And it's got such great devices. Like they got this creepy ass advent calendar, you know, that like the door opens and it's got like this really creepy, weird Germanic snowman inside of it. And as you got the 24th and it opens, and like each new day has something There's a lot of ways they use to kind of tell the passage of time and things getting darker and more desperate. And it's there's this great line for Adam Scott, where, you know, his kid's complaining about what dicks the family is being. And he's like, look, we just have to survive these next 3 days. And I thought that was a great like foreshadowing, because the family's going to try to survive being haunted by Krampus through the holiday season. If they can make it to Christmas Day, I guess it's going to be fine. So do you want to talk about like, because I feel like this is essentially an in sequence. We've talked about the film so far. And if you haven't seen it, I would check it out now, because it's a lot of fun. Oh, one other thing is, this is not a not scary movie. Like, I don't know that you bust this out on like a 5 or 6 year old that still like 100% believes in Santa Claus and all that kind of stuff. It might, although, I've met some hard 5-year-olds.
Sure.
One of my little cousins, I remember rolling up to his house, and his mom was like passed out on the couch, and he was like in underwear and like at 4 years old, like with his hands out touching the TV screen. That's how close he was watching a really nasty part from Scream, like someone getting like Drew Barrymore getting disemboweled or some shit. My little cousin, he probably handled this film. But, if you got some kids that still believe in Santa Claus and all that stuff, maybe wait until they're like preteens, or certainly the 12 to 13-year-olds and on up. I think it'd have a lot of fun. Like, honestly, stop watching National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It's a garbage fire movie.
No,
it's not that funny.
No.
All the funny parts of National Lampoon's are in this film, and they mix in a little Krampus. I like it. It's a better Christmas message, etc. But yeah, I think this could be a modern Christmas classic.
I think it is. Yeah. So along the lines of like, hey, do you want your kids to watch this? I think if you don't mind them being scared of like air vents and the chimney, and maybe just outside snowmen, things like that. Yeah, sure. Show it to them. They'll probably be scared for 10 years based on that. I think this is a Christmas classic because it is just playful enough. I like that it's not the James Wan thing, right? I wanted this to be a little bit of fun, and it definitely is fun.
I am kind of surprised there's not more true horror set around Christmas.
Yeah,
because
I get why though, right? It's not in the spirit of Christmas.
But yeah,
because like you don't really want to sit down with your family and watch a scary movie during Christmas.
No, but I think there is that palette that Christmas sometimes paints with the Christmas that your girlfriend broke up with you or boyfriend broke up with you the month before, and you're in college and you can't afford to come back home, and you're just kind of everyone's left and you're in the dorm room and you're just a little tear slow, right, and you're listening to it's a hard, we talked about it, like the Dolly Parton hard candy Christmas,
Sure, the guy's got to rent a family for Christmas consisting of James Gandolfini and whoever else.
Sure, yeah. And I'm because that, like when we did the Giamatti Christmas, that what was that? All is bright.
Yep.
That is like what I'm talking about, like that kind of palette, but with a horror film. I'm really shocked that there hasn't been. Maybe there has, because I noticed that they have made 6 to 8 direct-to-video sequels to this Krampus movie since this movie came out. Yeah. That's incredible.
I think Krampus caught fire in the zeitgeist, right? Like it was such an interesting thing. Yeah, when I hear people talk about like Christmas movies that are sort of off the beaten path, that's one that comes up pretty often. Like I don't hear people talking about All Is Bright because it's kind of a mopey, sad, shitty Christmas. It's a good movie, but it's like, I don't want to watch that during Christmas. Come on. I'm not trying to make everybody sad around the fire. This is a lot more fun than that. And I feel like people really love the idea of Krampus and where this movie is willing to go, which was maybe the most surprising thing about it. So the movie takes a turn into horror somewhere around like the beginning of the second act. Mm-hmm. And I was like squinting at this movie. Okay, how hard are you gonna go, movie? How hard are you gonna be, especially on children? And this movie pulls no punches. Zero, none, no fucks are given about killing children. I was surprised by that, and I cheered when it happened the first time. I was like, fuck yes, okay, that's the kind of movie I'm in for here.
Yeah, and I'd seen this before, like around when it first came out, and I remember that's the thing is I didn't remember so much of this because like I remember there's a couple points where like Krampus is going to fish for. I thought it might even go harder. There's that Krampus was like fishing for children with this big steel hook in the chimney, and I'm like, oh boy, is he going to stick this kid with that? And like it's not that bad, but yeah. like this movie, of course, we're in a spoiler section now. So if you guys have not seen the movie yet, please stop. But I kept on as we were watching this go on, and like, you know, when the sister bites it fairly early on in the movie, I'm like, is she gonna die? Did she die? And then another snowman pops up, and I'm like, I think she died. And then at the end, there's this kind of like, you know, kind of a spiritual Christmas showdown between the kid and Krampus. And I'm thinking like, oh, he's going to use the Krampus spell and it's going to undo the spell. Or like when that fissure in earth, like I'm like, did I fall asleep during this movie? Because like, is there if fucking a badass dark Germanic version of Santa Claus comes out of that hole and like does battle for this little boy's soul, like that's going to be pretty metal.
That would be.
But no, what Krampus does is damns all their soul to Christmas hell, essentially.
It's like
there is no reset.
You can't get out of this. And that was one of the questions I had. Yeah, is there anything you could do to appease Krampus once he shows up? And in my flurry of note taking toward the end of this movie, I just wrote down the question, what makes Krampus come? Which is not maybe the best question to
Don't
be
Google
asking.
that. Don't Google that. You're going to get a bunch of cinnamon and spice results. Yeah.
But that was the thing. Like, why does Krampus show up? Why does Krampus come to this house? Is it because of the old woman who he knows is like been pardoned, or is it because of this kid's note exclusively, or is it both? Or like, why does Krampus come, and what can you do once Krampus does? Like, what's the aftermath of Krampus coming?
See, I love the world building they do here, because there's this scene where the grandmother, who's kind of like a Wookiee in this film, she speaks German. Everyone can understand her, or no, she's got her grandson who's like the Han Solo that can understand her, and she can understand him, but they don't. And there's this one scene where they kind of lampshade it and she just starts speaking English. That one scene.
Yeah.
And I even think one of the sister-in-laws is like, see, I knew she could. And then she, but she's essentially in full Wookiee mode, and she gives a monologue in English at some point.
And sometimes she's subtitled, sometimes she's not. It was bizarre.
Yep. They play for it with effect. But like during that monologue, they actually cut away and do this beautiful animation sequence.
Yeah.
Reminds me of kind of like Pixar meets the vignettes in Candyman. Okay. You know, like the creepy shadow puppets, but also there's a kernel of Pixar Disney face in the middle of it.
Like a 3D animation, almost like a Nightmare Before Christmas feel to it as well.
And I think you're supposed to understand this is post-war Germany, where the cities have been ravaged and there's some food shortages and maybe not good working, or maybe it's like right in the middle of the end of the war. And she mentions that like that was a particularly cold Christmas, that no one was into Christmas cheer and everyone had turned against each other. And so it seems like there's a couple of things like Krampus is like a hurricane, instead of a hurricane, it feeds on warmth and energy in the Gulf. He draws his power on the lack of warmth and coldness. And it's funny because in 2015, I remember that kind of like, there was kind of like this grim atmosphere in the air. Post-pandemic is kind of funny to think about it that way, but it seems like it's part of one is you have to have the conditions ripe for a Krampus, and then you have to have like an anti-Christmas wish, because like if a kid doesn't ask Santa Claus for anything, Santa Claus ain't gonna come.
But Santa gets around, right?
Doesn't ask,
like Santa,
if you don't ask Krampus for anything, then Krampus won't come, I guess.
Sure, I get that. But like Santa has one job, right? He's there to slide down your chimney and plant some presents, and he's gone. Maybe suck up some milk and cookies while he's there. And he gets around. He moves fast. He can get all of the world done in one night. Krampus spends some fucking time on you. Krampus has like a plan going in where he's going to spend a whole Christmas with one family. Is Max really the worst kid on the planet, the kid that's most deserving of Krampus' attention?
It also seems like no, because the thing is I think you're wrong. It's not just one family. He terrorized almost every family on that block when they went out and explored the houses. Like all of them were like looked like rampaged by naughty? Krampus.
So is this the naughtiest city in the world? Then the naughtiest town,
or like the
suburb?
city with the least amount of Christmas cheer. Yeah, like this is ground zero for like soullessness. And apparently,
wow.
Because I think I got that this is somewhere around Columbus, Ohio. the counties that they mention in like the snow, the blizzard advisory. That like like here in the heartland, you know,
I can buy it.
Krampus is
I can buy
Krampus is stalking people. Yeah, no, the Krampus, and I don't know a lot about the Krampus legend and like, you know, where it came from and all that kind of stuff. Maybe I dig more into it, but I know that there is kind of like much more carrot and stick over in the old, more, you know, Northern European kind of legends where it wasn't just Santa Claus like giving you a lump of coal. No, he had a whole division that dealt with naughty children, and Krampus, at least how it does in this German festival we're going to go to, like he goes around, he's got big heavy chains with like cowbell styles on them, and he shakes them around. He's got a big filthy sack he carries, and I guess that's where he stuffs his naughty children. He takes naughty, he doesn't give you lumps of coal, he takes you. And
I love it. The depiction
drags you to hell, apparently,
of Krampus, and this is so good. He's like this desiccated Santa corpse almost. He doesn't speak. His mouth always hangs open in like a ghoulish, almost like a scream mask, right?
Very Del Toro.
Yeah, sure. The chains around him always jingling like jingle bells, so it's got like a perverted spirit of Christmas sort of vibe to it. Yeah. It's really good.
And the horns, because you think it's more bad. He's got like he's got like a satanic appearance because he's got the cloven, you know, he walks upright on cloven hoof, and he's got the big curved horns. But yeah, his face. That's the thing. It's like Krampus shows up kind of early and often in this film.
Surprisingly,
I don't know. I want to talk about whether that's a mistake or not, because that's why, you know, when he shows up early, not early, but like. He pretty much, like you said, puts the first act to bed, and because everything before that is just set up, like it's just showing how this family's awful to each other and how it's just like the worst Christmas. So then Krampus is summoned, and he has his first victim, and you get a pretty good, you know, look at his feet and his kind of outline as he jumps from roof to roof, and that's creepy. You can see him like out in the distance, like, you know, stalking amongst his snowmen corpses and all that kind of stuff. Well, I don't know. What do you think? I want to talk more about the design, but what do you think about, you know, we just watched Jaws not too long ago, and that was famous for like keeping the shark hidden and saving the shock of it till later. How do you think Krampus did on that? Do you think it would have been better if we'd seen less of him until later in the movie? Or
so here's the weird thing. I watched this on Amazon Prime Video, and they have a screenshot up there, which is just, in my opinion, a straight up spoiler, because this movie, it shows you Krampus pretty early on, but it shows you Krampus from a distance up on rooftops through binoculars. It shows you with the hood down. So you can see it's like this hulking kind of, you know, hunched form with big goat devil horns. So it's weird, but the real like creepy part, the nasty part of Krampus is his face, and you don't see that until very late in the movie. But the Amazon screenshot just fucking shows it to you. It's just like, it's a screenshot of Krampus without a hood in broad daylight, like showing you everything.
Straight looking right in your face, yeah.
But B, it's not even the Krampus from this movie. It's a different Krampus. So I was like kind of spoiled.
You showed me that. That's but anti-spoiled, because you thought it was going to go one way and it went the other.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was kind of spoiled, but I thought that the build-up to showing Krampus's face was pretty effective. And so I'm okay with them showing the creepy form, like almost silhouetted form of Krampus early on.
And I came to the same conclusion, because that's one of the things I have in my notes. It's like, are they coming out? Are they pulling Krampus out of the bag too soon? But it's a progressive reveal of more and more details. Like, you see him at a distance, you see his hooves, and it's very scary. He's very bestial. He sounds like an animal. Then you see him come into a room. Still don't see his face. His face is shrouded in darkness, but you now see the chains, and you see the bells. I think it's the scene like where also in the you see in the cartoon, the animation sequence where the grandma's explaining what happened back in her German village, and you see his hand and the curved claws and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then later in the movie, it's like when you get the desiccated corpse of Santa Claus. That's where it's like, I think that's fucked up. And you keep on getting more and more like he's got like frog eyes, or maybe they're like eyes that are sunken and sewn shut, or maybe they're mouths for eyes in his eyeballs. It's really fucked up and weird. He's got the sunken Santa Claus face, and I read an interview with the director Michael Dougherty, and he said that and they say this in the movie, that this is Santa Claus's shadow, and I think that really comes across. Like, it's recognizably Santa. He's dressed kind of like Santa Claus, you know, like from the waist up, he's Santa Claus until you get to his face, and then you got this like corpse with the mouth hanging open and no expression, and it's really creepy and effective.
Yeah, maybe it's my fault for getting to this movie 6 years too late. I was a little disappointed at seeing a full-on Krampus in the screenshot.
I think one thing they did to build up the tension, or like that adds a lot to the Christmas kind of like flavor of this movie, is the family. Like, the core family is not terrible, but you can tell that they've lost a little bit of the Christmas love.
Yeah.
But then when their in-laws, or I guess various in-laws and outlaws and all that stuff, and they've got their sweet little German grandma that's like the Wookiee. She doesn't speak English. And she's baking. You can almost tell that like she's trying to single-handedly keep the Christmas stuff going. You know, she's like the blazing fire in the hearth that's trying to keep things warm. And then you meet this is when like Randy Quaid shows up with his wretched wife and children. The whammy guy from Anchorman comes up, and he is, you know, he's got the big Hummer. He's got.
We got to talk about that.
We got to talk about the Hummer. He's got the kids that are all kind of like. What was the guy's name from what's Kevin's brother's name? Buzz, your girlfriend, Woof. That's like from Home Alone, that's all of his kids. The majority of them, maybe all of them, are daughters, but he's clearly trying to, I don't know, against their will, or maybe this is the natural shape that they came out. But they're all being they're very presenting very masculine, because it seems like he would really want masculine children.
It's not just that, right? It's like everything about them. They're on the wrestling team. Like, if you look at their coats later, they're both on the wrestling team,
and they wrestle. Like, they like try to take each other down in the living room. Like, you know,
they're both they both have like vaguely boys' names. There's some other stuff too in there.
And I'm not talking like Dana. It's like Stevie.
You
know, Stevie. Yeah, like, I don't know, just Stevie Nicks you can do, but like,
sure, you can do it. But come on, we know what the movie is doing, and then they make it pretty overt also, because they say like, oh, he wanted a boy or whatever. But the boy he does have, the one boy he does have, is just mind-blowingly stupid, on the spectrum.
Yeah, like imagine Bobby Hill, except for lobotomized. Right. And that's what you've got.
And I don't want to be like insensitive against people who are like on the spectrum, but he might be that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because he just doesn't talk, right? He doesn't respond to stimulus the way that you would expect.
But I didn't get like, maybe you might be right, but also it's like, I just got that he just has everyone in contempt. Like, you know, like his cousin comes up and he tries to talk about Santa Claus, and he's just like, is almost like being cruel. But you might be right. I mean,
I don't know.
He is subverbal. All he does is essentially eat a cookie at some point. That's his big scene.
Yep.
But like, yeah, and then you've got Molly from Fargo, who I've always seen in likable roles. And she's kind of like, you know, terrible shitty aunt that doesn't, you know, and she's also brought along their great aunt, who's even a bigger piece of work. She's like some kind of demented Kathy Bates that just hates everybody. Like, why the hell do you even come to Christmas if you're going to be this shitty about it? And they set the scene where, like, you know, again, this kid gets in a fight during a winter pageant because kids are talking ill about Santa Claus, and he's trying to defend their honor, which you've already lost the plot of Christmas if you're trying to fight for Santa. You know, if you're literally trying to punch someone to keep from talking ill about Santa.
Yeah.
But he's also, again, a little too old for Santa, but he's written an unironic little kid Santa Claus letter, and his cousins steal it at the table. And here's the thing. It's like, this family gives McAllisters a run for their fucking money. I feel like we could do family court here. Because it's one thing for one of these shitty little cousins to steal the kid's letter. It's another thing for them to hastily tear it open and get a line or two out of it. But the whole family stops to do it at the dinner table and like gives the floor to this cousin as she gleefully reads. And the thing is, it's also
parents
who Max is like, you know, to say what you want about him. Like, all these wishes are sweet. He wants his little big sister to spend more time with him, wants his mom and dad to be more in love. He wants Christmas to be what Christmas used to be a couple years ago to him. And it's just incredibly sweet things. Kind of naive and childish, but what the fuck? This is like I felt like this is like Kevin McAllister trial all over again.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what are you trying to turn this kid into a psychopath? Like, what the hell?
Right. Yeah, no, it's wild. And I figured like when he threw the note in the air, it was going to be like some magical thing. And it turns out it is. This is where like the Christmas magic stuff comes in, because you always have that in these kind of Christmas movies, right?
But this is like the Christmas anti-magic. That's the cool thing about it. Like it's painting with, it's like black Christmas magic,
Yeah.
And so
on the family though,
ahead.
I want to go back to the family real quick, because like I've seen National Lampoons. They're pretty bad. This is clearly aping that, like almost dead on. Who's worse? Which is the worst family? Is it the fucking, I can't think of Chevy Chase's family's name.
Oh, me either.
Yeah. Is it the one from National Lampoons?
Griswolds, right?
Griswold,
it's Griswold family.
Thank you. Is it the Griswolds cousins and brothers and sisters, or is it the
No, I think Randy is his wife's brother. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Randy Quaid is his wife's brother, I think.
Yeah. Which one's worse?
So here's the thing. Like, I thought this guy's kids were terrible, and this guy's obviously more conservative than me, but like, it's not unlike my brother-in-law rolling in with his, like, I love my sister and her family, and all her little girls are very sweet. And, my oldest nephew is a great friend to my son. And I get along with my brother-in-law just fine. But he is this guy. He rolls in with like this big, like fucking heavy duty camper shelled big truck that holds like 6 people. He's almost always packing, or has a gun. So like I got kind of a, like, this is kind of like evil my sister's family. So like,
okay,
I'll put it this way: Whammy guy didn't pump his shitter out into this guy's gutters, Yeah. And honestly, that's the thing. Like, I found charming about this film is the family, when in stressful situations, came together.
Yeah,
like it's the anti, like, stupid Christmas film where the everybody gets pulled apart until everyone's put back together from some saccharine bullshit at the end of the movie.
Right, the bonus. This is from like
yeah, sure. Yeah, they start off at the low point, and then through the empathy of the shared terror, like, honestly, this guy stops being a dick pretty much the moment they have to go out to find, like, he's like being passive aggressive, and clearly he thinks Adam Scott is some panty waisted liberal whatever, and Adam Scott
getting digs in.
But the second his daughter gets lost in the avalanche, he's like, fucking, let's get in the Hummer, mount up, and let's go. Like, all that like kind of bullshit drops away, and then finally there's a point where, like, he gives Adam Scott this like giant, I don't know if like fucking 44 Magnum. Adam Scott holds it like a dead fish or something.
Yeah, come on.
But like he instantly gets into the Weaver stance when it's time to take shots at one of the Cramplings or whatnot. And like from that point, I feel like that he becomes cool. Like, he's not like really, I mean, I guess he's like, we should have gone to my brother's. It's hard to judge him wanting to spend the pig farm Christmas when he's got half his leg torn off by Krampus. Like, but yeah,
he thanks Adam Scott for saving him, right? Like, he's not ungrateful. He realizes, like, hey, this is a badass thing you did for me. Like, yeah, I think he comes around much more so than Randy Quaid, who is a shit, like, what, 90% of that movie?
And I feel like that this is the story of this is like, none of these are necessarily bad people. They've just kind of lost the plot of Christmas.
Yeah.
Because of them pursuing their own kind of individual, selfish, life patterns and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Like if you squint 5 years ago, they probably had a nice quality family Christmas like you see depicted at the end of the film.
Yeah, but, including what I would consider the left side of this family, right? Because they do some politics stuff here. Clearly, the brother and the sister and that side of the family is the right. And then you got the Max side of the family, which is the left. The left is just as caught up in their own bullshit in this movie as the right is. Like, they're not having a good Christmas aside from the grandma.
No, they're not. And okay, let's talk about the politics of the movie, because there is some light stuff. Like, it's 2015. This was like released during the I mean, I guess like in the aftermath. I think this came out like 2 days after the election.
Yeah, would have.
No, it's 2016. 2015 is like in the middle. Like this is at rolling into the intense election. So there's a lot of political division in our country. I thought it did it's pretty even handed. Like, you know, the conservatives say some shitty things about the liberal family. The liberal says some shitty about the conservative side of the family. They poke fun at each other. Like one of the funniest scenes is when Max, the kid, is trying to like start up this big snow plow, and he's like, I don't know how to drive a stick. We drive a hybrid. Like, he's just like, guys, you know, I thought there's some funny stuff.
But also, he's never driven a car. Come on, he wouldn't know how to drive an automatic. Right. So yeah.
Right. But like, you know, I feel like his cousins probably drive, you know, maybe have, I don't know, start up the Hummer at least. They're a little bit closer to a big rig. Yeah, exactly. I want to talk about the grandma. I think she's a great figure. Did you, when I remember watching this the first time and the second time, because I'd forgotten how this movie resolved somehow in 6 years. I kind of was going back and forth about whether she was a sinister figure. Is she so pissed off that her family has lost the plot of Christmas that she's going to bring Krampus with some kind of old German witch magic? But clearly that's not the case. But did you get any of those vibes?
The German witch magic? No, I did not. Santa Claus. Santa Claus having a good old time there in that picture, I gotta say.
Well, they call him Jolly Saint Nick.
They do.
Apparently, is his whole deal.
No, I wasn't getting that. I was thinking like she's the wholesome energy in Christmas here. Like she's making the ornate gingerbread houses. She's baking all the goods. She's kind of keeping Christmas alive while the rest of the family is panicking over having to deal with the rest of the family.
Yeah, you might. I just like the first time when the family's walking in from the intro where everything was crazy. Like it's almost like a zombie movie. Only like, yeah. Black Friday filmed as a zombie film. Oh, God, and the family's coming in there.
Yeah, when they roll up. Like, did this movie take some liberties with reality? Let's say aside from the Krampus stuff, with like the family rolling up, and I can't remember if National Lampoon's does this. If like when the family rolls up in the RV, in this case the Hummer, the whole house is shaking. Like,
just shakes. Yeah.
When I was thinking this, because they don't show what they're driving up in ever until like, I don't know, 30 minutes later. You went to
see Lucinda until later in the film. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm thinking if they're not driving up in Panzers, then this is just totally unrealistic. They better be, because it's not just like, oh, the pictures are vibrating on the walls. No, the whole house, they're shaking the frame, right? The foundation of this house is crumbling underneath it. It's incredible. And then I see it's a Hummer. I'm like, well, disappointing, but okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a monster Hummer though. It's like one of the ones with the truck bed. Like I think when the no shit military models maybe.
Yeah. It was definitely like an H1.
Maybe it can shake the timbers of a McMansion, but but no, I know there's something about like the way she looked at the family, because she's clearly like happy cooking and making cookies, and they all come in, they're complaining, and she's kind of like this dour look on her face, kind of scowls. And then when the kid comes up and asks her about Christmas, she doesn't, you know, she says a bunch of stuff about, I don't know, the way she explained what her understanding the meaning of Christmas, I thought might have been interpreted as creepy too. But anyway, so that's the other, is like I was terrified that like you're gonna have a scary German witch lady in consort with Krampus. That actually was completely wrong.
Yeah, I guess aside from Grandma, I was looking forward to watching at least one half, if not 4/5 of this family getting eaten by Krampus, or whatever the hell was going to happen with Krampus.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of all shits. I thought the grandma was sweet. There's a big question I have, and I think the movie like wants you to have this question. That's kind of the joke, but like I gotta know more about the noodle incident. Like what possible anything could happen with noodles that would cause your neighbors to stop speaking to you.
Did you look at any of the behind the scenes or like delve into this movie very much? So I did, because I thought that was interesting too. And apparently in the old Calvin and Hobbes newspaper strip, the comic strip, because the one thing about that strip is it's very insular. Like it was essentially Calvin, Mom and Dad, Hobbes, Susie every once in a while, the teacher, And that's it. Like everyone's like they had one strip where like the uncle came and visited and he was never seen from because Bill Watterson said like, it is about this family, keep it. So he had all these kind of like reasons that like you never saw the neighbors. And I guess the mom and dad would always, anytime they talk about the fact that they don't get out much or don't have they would always refer to the noodle incident that was never addressed. It was always alluded to. And this is his way of kind of like winking at the Calvin and Hobbes strip that like, oh yeah, well there's just this noodle incident, which is why we're not going to get the neighbors involved.
Yeah, because aside from the DHL guy, I don't think there's anybody but the family in this.
And that's the thing that threw me off balance because you said that like, 4/5 of his family, I was waiting for them to get eaten. I did not count his big sister in that group. I thought she was, and there's also that scene where he, he's being humiliated by having his Christmas letter read, and she seems genuinely touched by his desire to like just hang out like they used to. Yeah. So I was shocked. When she was like the first one eaten. And that's where I'm like, oh fuck, is this movie? The whole movie, I kept on expecting. There's some way to reverse the Krampus curse or the Krampus spell. Yeah. And I think the movie plays with that expectation too.
It does. And that's the thing that's so good about the grandma's story is it doesn't give you the obvious out, right? I see so many stories like this, horror movies, where it's like, oh, you can see if they just do this thing, it will appease the spirit or whatever.
Yeah.
With the grandma, it's just like, I was a kid, Krampus came, killed everyone, winked at me and left.
That's the great when it winks at her.
I don't fucking know what to make of that. So it's
just to make a point about hope, like and the absence of it. Yeah.
And so she's like saying, keep the fire lit. And I think that is, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, or a literary genius to figure out they're talking about this. The spirit of Christmas is the fire, right? It's a metaphor.
Yeah, it's real and metaphoric. There's a lot of the world building. Keep the fires hot is the dual nature of like you're talking about like for a lot of human history. A hearth has been literally synonymous with a home, with a family, like the blazing
life itself.
It's the source of warmth. It's where you cook your food. It's where people would sit around and you would tell stories and you'd bond, all that stuff. So like it works really, really well as a metaphor. And like there's this great scene like where, grandma said, you got to keep the fires burning. We got to keep the Christmas spirit bright. And like they've all fallen asleep and the fire is burning to embers. And then the cell phones, the power is all cut too. It's at 1% and it's playing Christmas music, almost like a ward. Like this is like holy water or garlic keeping a vampire away. And so it's such a great scene because the fire snuffs and the Christmas carols go out all at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then like I kind of wonder, like, is there a version of this family, a version of the story where the family kept the fires going and kept the Christmas music going the whole time, and Krampus is just like repelled, but they can't keep it up. So he starts that's like the fishing. It kicks off the whole fishing with family, the fishing for kids sequence, which I thought, again, I don't know where. I kind of wouldn't have minded, especially where the movie ends up, if they just hooked that kid. Like,
just like by the crotch, just balls first up the chimney.
Yeah.
And he screams and wakes everybody up, and they see him, Augustus glooping up the chimney.
Yeah. Like medium gory, not like super gory, but like, Marvel Cinematic Universe gory. I think I could have done like what they did was still pretty horrific, where the little crampling comes down and like, chains him up and then hauls him. But I just really like how they made it seem like, because you're right. There is no appeasing this, but could you, if you'd done everything just right, warded him away at the last minute by, clinging to Christmas?
I don't know. And that's kind of one of the things that's creepy and effective about Krampus is I don't really quite understand what I did to get in this situation and how I can do anything to get out of it. But there seem to be some kind of rules. And I do wonder if those other 8 straight to video or straight to streaming movies tell any more of that story, because there's like a Krampus Origins. There's probably a whole Krampus lore that I'm not pretty too.
Right. And I wonder if some of the other direct-to-video go into scarier territory, or do they feel like, we got this tone, it's got to be PG-13, so we can't ever get scarier than the original, or do they get like, start really rolling up their sleeves as things go? I promise you this, before we get to December 25th, I'm going to watch at least one more of these, because I'm very curious about. I might go with the one that's highest rated on Amazon, or I might go with something else, but no, they do a lot of like really cool details. Like this guy, clearly thought a lot. Like there's a lot of like impending dread throughout this movie, like the haunted snowman that appears on the lawn.
Yeah.
The mysterious package that arrives that nobody thinks to check on because nobody cares to tell. Like when the Hummer's driving, because
the liberals are always getting free stuff. Yeah, that's how they chalk it up to. Sure.
Yeah. The Hummer, like as they're out cruising the neighborhood and looking for their daughter, it crushes a Christmas ornament, kind of like metaphorically. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that stuff that kind of like subliminally builds up the Christmas tension throughout this film, and I thought it's just so good. There's this one thing, like when they were going to the boyfriend's house to check for the daughter, and Whammy Guy's got his tactical shotgun with the floodlight on it, and he's like opening the door. Did you notice like the way that the wreath on the door cast a shadow? It looked almost like a beast with claws coming across the scene.
No,
I don't know if that was
cool.
intentional or not, but it was fucking really cool. And this movie's just loaded with little details like that.
So we're kind of in like the midpoint of this movie where, Krampus is terrorizing the family a little bit. They don't quite know what's up yet. There's one scene that is puzzling to me, and I think this is just a tonal thing. The movie wanted to go for like a little comedy still. It's when the two dudes are both out looking for the daughter who's gone missing, Max's older sister. The family inside the house is holed up and they're starting to be terrorized, right? There's like what they chalk up to squirrels in the ceiling. First of all, this is a multi-story house. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they've got squirrels in between floors. Maybe that's a thing. I assume they can get through the walls. Whatever. They're all worried about the squirrels. They're like freaking out. Oh my God, what's that? The little scraping, just those noises. And then there's a massive, gigantic thud. Like the ceiling just caved in and your second story is gone.
Which works as a good jump scare too, because.
Yeah. But then they're like, oh, okay. And the movie just moves on. They don't like, this is the thing that puts them at ease. The massive thud that probably is somebody dying upstairs.
I thought the same thing, and but I think what they're going is like, after that big thump, there's like a 5-second silence of the family kind of looking, and she's like, "Oh, that's just like because it went away. It wasn't an ongoing thing. It's like one big thump and it's done." But I was like, if I was in their real life, I would get out because I would think a fucking tree just fell on my house,
right?
Like it thumped that hard.
Yeah.
The sound design of the Krampus landing on roofs and stuff was ballsy. Like it sounded weighty and scary every single time it happened.
Oh no, it's great. And that ho howling that they do is so good. He's like howling as he's jumping around, but it's like kind of a ho.
It's like I've been trying to demented hoing laughter at the end of these podcasts. So the middle of the movie, the grandma tells everybody what's up. She's like, all right, here's the deal. We got a Krampus situation. We had one in my village. I was the sole survivor. And here's what we got to do. From that on, like I thought the movie really, there's so much like there's a ton of energy in like the fishing for children sequence. A lot of national. It's kind of like the last of the National Lampoon's Vacation bits, because one of those little cramplings gets out, sets the tree on fire. Everything's going to hell. But like once the children start getting taken, that's when the true horror of this movie comes out, because this Jack in the Box,
dude,
it's like as scary as any of the forms of it.
I have nicknames for almost all of these. I want to come up with some more. Okay,
because I wrote down most of them too, and I was like, okay, so we've got you got the Jack in the Box from It.
Okay.
Cherub with the tongue.
Okay.
The teddy bear. The gingerbread men, and the stabby robot is what I called them. What do you got here?
So for your Jack in the Box, I've got human centipede. For
That's okay. I like that. That's good. Good, strong start.
For the bird thing,
this is Ruth Bader Twinsburg all over again. You're just born to name these characters from Christmas films.
Apparently, for the cherub thing or whatever it was, an owl bird monster thing, I've got Jack and the Bird, which is not as good as Human Centipede, but nothing is. And then I don't have one for the bear and the robot. I was gonna try and come up with some of those with you. Just Stabby robot. Sure.
If you want to see Twins Bader Ginsburg, or
Ruth Bader
Twinsburg. I think all of our holiday content, if this is your first time through Christmas Club, I think all of our holiday content is really good. But our movie reviews, the video versions of our podcasts, where, you know, especially in later years, we started like interleaving parts of the movie. They're, I think, really entertaining. And that one is from, I think, Jingle All the Way 2. Yes. From the sequelness. Yeah, we had, I think that's the year we did Home Alone 2, Jingle All the Way, and Die Hard 2.
Right.
Yeah, those are good. That's good stuff.
They are. But yeah, Human Centipede is fucked up. I was not expecting really something this fucked up in this movie. The way it moves, the face on that thing is disgusting. Oh, yeah. The opening jaws. Ugh.
Yeah, like something out of Blade 3.
Yeah, it's like got this, you know, almost Venetian or Phantom of the Opera style mask, but it's segmented and the mouth opens up to like some fleshy, sharp toothed. Ugh.
Yeah, or it's like half a Demogorgon from like the lower half of a Demogorgon's face with the flower petals, but it's also got teeth on it somehow.
Yeah,
and it's really swallowing children whole. Like when you first see it, it's like you can just see it's like Steve Buscemi going into the wood chipper of Fargo. You know, like you're just seeing the grisly remains of it. And the movie goes like in these few scenes, it kind of has like that manic Gremlins energy. Where it's like these like little things are just like, you know, each individual one wouldn't be so bad, but all of them together, like the cherub has got its tongue in Toni Collette's face, and Molly, and she goes on a full on axe rampage, which is kind of like badass. Mm-hmm. And I think at this point I'm like, okay, this family's got the upper hand. They're going to win here. But then the elves show up. And oh man, there's a couple points where I thought the movie's going to pull out a happy ending. Let's talk about this.
Yes.
Like when Grandma locked the door and says "be good" and then faces the Krampus alone, I thought somehow she was going to fucking slay it with the bell or something. That did not happen.
Right.
All the parents get snatched, and then the last child gets snatched. It's just Max, and he's standing there alone. I thought he was going to somehow be able to reverse the spell.
Mm-hmm. He throws the jingle bell at Krampus and says, "I don't want your stinking wish," or whatever he says.
And then like the ground crackles with power, and I was like at that point I'm like, man, if like some badass like medieval Santa Claus comes out and does battle with Krampus, that'd be pretty fucking sweet.
That would also be amazing. I thought it was gonna suck all of them down into hell.
I thought so too. Hell, like you know, or like you'd see something that they would invoke Santa Claus to get rid of Santa Claus shadow. That doesn't happen. Then they kind of set up almost like it's all a dream. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like a happy ending, but at what cost? Do you have to really lose all my respect, movie? But then as the scene goes on, you notice like they I think it's very subtle at first, but they keep layering on the like kind of dream quality of it. Like
the hallmark, slightly overexposed, a little soft with the lighting.
Very soft with the lighting and the focus. And it kind of gets more and more. And, you know, like you're having this ideal family Christmas. Everyone's like, now the house is bright, almost heavenly white, and everything's perfect. All the kids are, super into Max and happy he's here. And no one remembers the Krampus. But then he gets his first present and it's the Krampus bell. And you can see kind of everyone's face starting to remember. And I thought the end of this movie, the idea that Krampus has people caught in Christmas hell that are little snow globes that he keeps on his shelf. I thought that was a brilliant concept. Although I have to confess, Jim, when I die, I want to go to Christmas hell.
Yeah.
It looks like, what's the best? Okay, you got memories of being haunted by Krampus. This is awesome. You're sitting there opening presents, drinking hot tea. Everyone's like, just chill out in Christmas hell. If I thought when I died I went to Christmas hell, I'd blow my brains out right now.
A lot of people in the world do think something akin to that, and they're still around. True. So,
and that's they lack the courage of their convictions. Suicide is actually a sin against God. That's gets expressed to the non-Christmas hell.
It's got to be oops, I tripped on a piece of ice, fell into the street, got hit by a Hummer.
Sure,
I don't know.
Sure.
But yes, I agree with you. It's almost like Krampus is a Christmas monkey paw, right? Like you wish for the Christmas that you always wanted, and you get it, but it's eternal, and it's never changing, and it's all consuming, and that is your existence for the rest of time. It's definitely like a monkey's paw thing. You got your wish, but you didn't get quite how you wanted it. Yeah,
because it's not real, and also, like you said, it's now like you're going to be haunted by what you could have had as a family that you're never going to have again because you're stuck in this Krampus ball.
And also, hot chocolate good, but hot chocolate forever. Hot chocolate forever is probably bad.
I'm about ready to roll. I'm willing to roll the dice in Christmas hell is what I'm saying. I thought I actually admired the movie for like offering what will seem like a plausible happy ending and then ending kind of darker than I thought the movie had the balls for. I really thought they were going to undo everything.
Me too. I was so worried about that at the end where he wakes up. I'm like, if you fucking do this, I've just lost every ounce of respect I have for this movie. I was way into this movie, and I will be way out if that's how it ends.
Especially since there was when I thought that they're like, maybe the movie ends with this kid just being left alone on Christmas morning. Like he's out in the street, the blizzard is over, and like the authorities come rolling in because the power's been cut, and they haven't heard from a lineman, and they haven't heard from it, and like he's just going to be alone. And I'm like, damn, that's fucking cold. Mm-hmm. And then they went, and then I just thought I think the director was fucking with us. Like he was playing with their expectations of like, this is a horror comedy. It's not going to be that bad, right? And then he goes like some kind of like Hellraiser shit at the end.
No, my mind was changed on this movie the moment that the older sister died, because I was like, this movie is a little too lighthearted at the beginning. It's a little too jokey. If this is going to turn sinister, it's not going to be that bad. But then when they killed the daughter or the older sister, and then, and all the way to the end, like the human centipede stuff is fucked up, way more fucked up than I thought they would get.
That's what I'm saying. Do not show this like to 7 or 8 year old unless you know they're like fucking hard.
Right. Yeah, they'll be scared of those air vents, man. If that thing is in the air vents, I'm scared of them.
And I tell you, the other thing is like, I tried to text you, so I'm not sure if I got to it in time. But like a minute or two into the credits, they bust out a Krampus version of the Carol of the Bells. That's the da 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 da, and it's all about like warnings for Krampus showing up, and they go, "You're about to have a very, very scary Christmas," and it's I added it to my Christmas playlist. I'll put it that way.
We must have turned it off.
So it's like you even got
like seconds before that happened, because we watched a lot of the credits scroll by to see the photos.
Yeah, they have photos and stuff. I guess that was like cast and crew.
Cast members and crew members. Yeah, you could tell some of them. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's Allison Tolman right there, obviously.
And it did feel, but it felt like a real extended family, right? I thought that was kind of neat.
It was nice. I wish I had held on a little bit longer to hear that Krampus thing.
But. And I didn't know, because I was just like finishing up my notes and doing some stuff, and it was just kind of playing. And then I said, wait, is this got words? And I'm like, oh my God. But nice. I Shazammed that shit and added it to my Christmas list, which also. If you follow me on Twitter, Aaron Hubbard BM, it will be the stickied post, the link to my Christmas list. It's a kind of secularized. I took out all the Mary Did You Know, the super syrupy shit, and it's just a bunch of
what about classics, the songs about
standards,
pressuring people into sex.
It's yes, there's actually 2 versions of that song. One that's straight up and one that's a dirge. That's really fucking cool. I got a couple I got a couple novelty songs. There's like there's like 400 songs on this list. It's pretty. It's like you can listen to it for like 12 hours and not repeat. And I've curated over the years, and like the Bald Move people have kept on. And there's a couple sad ones. There's like maybe 4 in the whole collection. They're like like tearjerker,
Sure.
But yeah, it's because it's like I said, Christmas does have that palette. I was delighted. I was so glad because I when I first saw it, I'm like, I thought Rare Exports was a zombie film. And I thought Krampus was a really scary balls to the wall horror film. Like, I don't know what kind of Christmas, but you know what? A Christmas miracle happened. We tried to make a scary Christmas, and I think, although we have the third terrifying secret film,
it's true,
that will debut the week of Christmas, maybe that's the one that just puts the fear of God into everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. But yeah, scary Christmas, everybody. I think that's it. Of course, we've still got some more stuff to come. There'll be the evening Christmas streams where we're doing Secret Santa giveaways. Don't forget about those. Check the Bald Move Christmas schedule for more details. We also have Christmas lunches. Those are a thing. And like I said, you got one more Christmas present podcast to unwrap right before Christmas. So thank you for your support. Hope you're having a very happy holidays and a very scary Christmas. Ho, 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 ho.